Hello everyone and welcome to the Anti-Tekken 8 version 2.02 guide. As always, this video is going to go over all of the relevant information in the last patch, all of the character changes, and how to deal with all of it. We're going to go through all of the relevant characters in alphabetical order. We're going to skip the characters where the changes aren't really going to matter unless you play that character. We're more focused on how to defend against the character now with the given changes that they have. And at the end of this video, I'll give you my overall thoughts on the patch. So the first character that's going to have relevant changes for this patch is Claudio. So Claudio got some pretty major changes to forward 3-2 here, and the changes here I think make this move pretty much unusable, and we'll talk about why. And the reason why it's unusable is if you know specifically the counterplay to it. If you incorporate the counterplay, then Claudio really isn't getting a lot of value off this move, taking a lot of risk, and having to use his Starburst resource. So the easiest thing to talk about first is how this works outside of Starburst, because there have been changes to that. Mainly, the tracking of the held version on forward 3-2 has been reduced. If you don't know, the counterplay to this move is to sidestep right. We saw some people at Evo Japan, like Pinya, for example, who were attacking into it, and maybe that just feels like the natural way to counter this instead of sidestepping is to attack into it. But the counterplay that you want to incorporate is sidestepping because of the properties that this has on counter hit. Now, the real big change to this came from the Starburst version. The main aspect of this move that made it very scary when Claudio was in Starburst was that the non-charge version here, wall splats, and the charge version gives Claudio a plus 14 guard break that, of course, allows him to wall splat and then do full combo. So in this kind of scenario, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And even if you block the uncharged version, Claudio was still +1. That's been changed. The uncharged version now does not induce wall splat anymore. As you can see, it doesn't even wall break. And on top of that, the uncharged version of this now on block is -9, meaning that Claudio now loses his turn completely. Now, with the charge version, though, if you don't sidestep this and Claudio does the charge version, he's at +12 instead of +14, but that still allows him to wall splat, and it also allows him to do forward 2-2 to be able to regain his Starburst. So how do you deal with this as the defender? Well, the simple answer is that you pretty much always want to sidestep Claudio now if he's in Starburst and does forward 3-2. What's the reason for this? The simple reason is that if you don't sidestep it and you eat the fully charged version, when your back's to the wall, you have to eat a full combo. But if you sidestep it, Claudio eats a full combo. If you choose to sidestep it and he does the half-charge version to catch your sidestep, he is getting no reward off of it besides if I actually, hold on, let me set the opponent here to sidestep. You can see that neutral's reset, you're eating the 20 damage, and Claudio loses his Starburst completely. So Claudio, in many ways, is actually getting punished for using the uncharged version of this because he's losing access to moves in Starburst like his DP, his forward 1+2, and all of these very strong moves that Claudio has while in the Starburst state. So this is the case at the wall where even if you sidestep this and eat the 20 damage, it's still in a lot of ways good for you because Claudio now no longer has access to Starburst. He no longer has access to these very strong moves, and he's kind of wasted it on something that he can just do by doing this. So it's just as if you're sidestepping it and you're not letting him do the charge version, which is where he actually gets the reward out of this move, then he's not really getting anything out of using the move, and he's kind of wasting his Starburst. On top of that, though, when Claudio is in neutral, as we kind of saw, if we do the half-charge version and that hits, neutral kind of resets in this case, on top of Claudio losing access to Starburst. Whereas, if we don't sidestep this here, and Claudio does the full charge version, he's able to regain his Starburst and then, of course, get whatever he gets after his 2-2. So Claudio is getting rewarded and able to renew Starburst if you don't sidestep this and you just block it, whereas if you get hit by it by sidestepping, then Claudio kind of loses out on his ability to use his gimmicks and his heat, and he kind of loses control of neutral. So because of that, in the majority of cases, it's better for you to just sidestep this, even if you don't think that he's going to fully charge it, because if you're always sidestepping this, then Claudio basically has no use for this move. Feng had a very small change we'll go over briefly. Core Circle forward 2, the launcher is now -14 instead of -12. That's it. Simple as that. All right, Jin's change to 2-1-4 on counter hit is a very perplexing change, to put it mildly. 2-1-4 now is now worse on counter hit than it is on normal hit. Let me explain. When Jin normal hits off of 2-1-4 here, if I could actually space this correctly, Jin is left at +3. And this is going to allow him to frame trap with various options. Down forward 1-4, of course, which he can hit confirm into the 4. At the wall, this is devastating. And even on normal hit, this is going to leave Jin at +10, so he's able to afterwards force a mix-up with, say, forward 2, or he could try doing if I could actually do anything to save my life here. He could also do a house sweep, for example. He has a plethora of options available to do after this down forward 1, and his down forward 1 is -3, so that allows him to continue the pressure here if he wants to. The other thing that he has, again, just as an example, is he could do press 4, and that is going to, on counter hit, give him his heat engager guaranteed. He can high crush with, of course, something like down 2. He has a bunch of options at his disposal after this 2-1-4 hits. He can also just do 2-1-4 into, let me turn off the counter hit. He could just do 2-1-4 into 2-1 or something like that. And that allows his small Tekken game to really shine. Now, the problem is that on counter hit now, 2-1-4 stops all of that because neutral resets on counter hit. This is one of the strangest changes I've ever seen in any fighting game in my life. This means that Jin loses control of the momentum and the neutral because neutral completely resets in this scenario. I have no idea what they were thinking with this change, but this completely changes the dynamic, not just with 2-1-4, but how you deal with the 2-1 string in general, because you intentionally want to get counter hit by 2-1-4 now. Yes, I'm not kidding. You want to mash into this move after you block 2-1. What's the reason for that? Mental frame advantage is one of the most powerful things about Jin's 2-1-4. 2-1-4 on block only leaves Jin at -3 with a very delayable 4. And the dynamic this has always caused, going all the way back, not just from Tekken 8, but in previous Tekken games as well, where you have to be very patient around Jin's small Tekken game. 2-1 being high mid, only -3, having to watch out for the 4, which has previously been safe. Jin being able to use that mental frame advantage to be able to enforce mix-ups, enforce pressure, and continue on his offense. Now, of course, this has put Jin at some risk if you choose to attack into it, because while he's only -3, even if he tries counter hit fishing with a 4, for example, that is going to lose to a 15 frame or faster move, leaving him susceptible to counter hit launches, magic force, things like Steve's back 1 and stuff like that. So that's what 2-1-4 has always covered. It has always been about the mental frame advantage to be able to cover 2-1 to allow Jin to continue his pressure afterwards despite him being minus on block. That all falls apart when you do not care about the counter hit on 2-1-4, and that is the case in how it works today. I want you to think about this scenario. The scenario is I have Jin set to do 3 options here. I have him set to do 2-1-4. I have him set to do 2-1 into a magic 4. And I have him set to do 2-1 into a low. Of course, there are other options that Jin could do as well, like he could do forward 4-3, for example, afterwards. But I want to just show off these very fast, typical, and generic options that Jin has just to show you the difference in scenario if we choose to intentionally get hit by this move by attacking into it versus just trying to block. In fact, actually, for the sake of example, I am going to do forward 4 because I think it's kind of relevant to the whole pressure and mix-up game. So we're going to choose to block this. Okay, so we get a punish. Okay, now we have to be careful. Magic 4, we're able to step block this. Now we're dealing with all of this, right? -4, but that's fine. Oh no, I got hit by the low. Okay, so now I'm getting pushed back to the wall. Jin's able to continue his poking game. Get caught in the step guard there. There I get hit with the low. Oh, now I got a punish. Okay, so we've gone through that. This is a basic sort of synopsis and generalization of Jin's pressure that he can continue after with 2-1. Now let's see how that changes if we choose to attack into it with just, again, we're going to go very simple here. We're just going to do a down forward 1. Beat it. Neutral's reset. Cool, he's whiffed. Heat engager. Next. Down forward 1, interrupt it. Cool, we got hit. Oh, I missed it because I don't know the range here for Jin. 2-1-4. Cool. He's whiffed. Got him. Neutral's been reset. Let's try this again. Here. Now we start our small attacking game. We start our small attacking game. We start our small attacking game. You know what? Let's do a down 2 here. Why not? Let's throw some lows into it. Let's make it fun. Oh, cool. Now we got a whiff punish on him. I did not mean to block that. But you see how this works, right? You see how this is like, okay, so we get counter hit, we take 20 damage. It's not a big deal. We don't really care. But we're able to stop all of Jin's small attacking game if we want to, right? We can stop his small attacking game. We can get off to the races. And now let me show you how this would work with the character I actually play, because I know how we can sort of layer the offensive pressure a little bit better. Okay, so here we are with Lydia. Let's see this in action. So boom, forward 4-2 counter hit. Down 4-2 counter hit. Boom, he did his 13 frame button there. Okay, we got hit. Big whoop. I really don't care. Next, forward 4-2 counter hit. Down 4-2 counter hit. Forward 4-2 counter hit. Down back 3 trade. Down 2 this time because it goes under highs. Boom, counter hit. You see how much risk now Jin has to take, and with the such little reward he gets now off of that follow-up, I can do this with reckless abandon. I don't have to care. Look how many times. Look, I can just hot kick here if I know that he's going to do something. Boom, boom. Give me my heat burst, and then we continue the combo. So this is the world that we live in now. How does it feel to be Jin Kazama? Pretty damn bad, I'd say. It feels awful. I hope this demonstration has done a good job in showing you how now you just don't respect Jin's 2-1 anymore. And keep in mind, too, the difference between this on counter hit and normal hit is that if we get hit by it normally, then Jin's +3, so he's able to continue his small attacking game. And that includes him doing 2-1 and stuff, and that means he's able to just continue his small attacking offensive pressure, keep up the momentum. But if we get counter hit by it, that's all gone. It doesn't matter. Now, of course, this changes when you get hit by it because it's +6. So if I get hit by this and I try jabbing into it, then I'm going to counter hit, right? So I'm going to want to block here regardless, but it's a 2-1 move. Of course, that's going to be the case. And then, of course, if we block the last hit, then we're off to the races. So this is one of the strangest changes that I've ever seen in a fighting game. It's very rare that I see a move that is worse on counter hit than it is on normal hit, but here we are, and this has completely changed how you actually deal with Jin's 2-1. So, I hope I've done a good job demonstrating that and how weird this is. I would not be surprised if this gets changed in the next patch, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, this is a really awful change, just straight up. Okay, so Ana got a pretty important change here. So during her Chaos Judgment stance, when she takes a throw from an opponent, the frame advantage has been changed on block from -1 to -3, and it's also been changed from -8 to -12. Now, this is breaking new ground in territory for any fighting game. I've never seen a move go from -1 to -3 to -8 to -12 in the span of a single patch. It's unprecedented. You can really see that the balance team has really, they have changed. They have swapped them around. They're trying out new ideas, and I'm really interested to see how they're going to continue this kind of change and these new ideas that this team brings into the future. Oh wait, it was a typo. That doesn't have anything to do with Ana. It's Lars' change to down forward 1, which is actually a pretty big change. So down forward 1 now on block went from -3 to -1, which means that, which doesn't seem like a big change, but remember that Lars has G-Clef Cannon, counter hit, heat engager. So going from -1 to -3 is actually a really big deal. It means that his jab now is going to trade with your 14 frame move. So if you play like Steve, for example, I say Steve because I think he's the most easily understandable example. You do back 1 after this now, and Lars does G-Clef Cannon, Lars gets counter hit launched. This is a huge change to how this move works and the entire dynamic around how Lars uses this move in neutral. But on top of that, down forward 1-1-3 is now -12 on block from being safe. Now, the second hit here is still a high, so you still want to duck under this, but if Lars chooses to finish the string here, you can punish him as well. So that's going to be really big, especially at low to intermediate levels, because people love throwing out mid-high, mid-down forward 1 strings. Look at you, Bob and Miguel. But on top of that, there's been an even bigger change. While running 1 now into stance is +4 from +7. And this was a big problem before. This was one of the last moves remaining in the game where on block you couldn't power crush through his options. Now you can. So if I do this with Lars and I do not that, if I do, hold on, I always get these confused. Let's do the 1 here, then as you can see, I can power crush through that. I still don't have enough frames to be able to sidestep it, so I do have to commit, but I actually do have counterplay options now if I have the right read. The problem here still, though, is that if Lars does this and then does the low is, of course, a counter hit launcher. So that's something that you have to be wary of. You can't throw out the power crush for 3. Lars has a 3 free. Lars does have a very good option for it, and this is of course only -12 on block. It's a very strong move, but you now have proper options for what Lars does in the stance if you have the right read. Whereas before, you really didn't have anything you could do here to actually beat the 1. Small thing on Lee, while rising to 3 is -13 now instead of -14. Big one. Paul. Death Fist and Heat is unsafe again. They don't know what to do with Death Fist. It's one of the oldest moves in the game, and they're going back and forth. Make it unsafe, make it safe, make it unsafe. Make up your mind, guys. Also, Paul's Heat Smash has been put in line with every other low Heat Smash in the game. It is now -14 on block instead of -12. So there you go. And finally for this patch, Steve players. I'm disappointed in you guys. After all of the praise I gave you in the last video, after all of the nice things I've said, you've gone and you've soiled it. You've just taken all of the goodwill that you and your communities had. You've taken all of the nice words that I've advocated for all of you, and you've soiled it. You've stripped it away. You're just like everyone else. I'm disappointed. I really am. I'm not even mad. I'm not upset, because it's just like every other player base in this game. I'm just disappointed in you guys. Steve's Heat Smash, as you may have seen from some of the funny clips on Twitter, has gone from homing to being steppable. I don't know why I did it like that. And this was warranted. This was 100% warranted. This has had to have been done since day 1 of this game being out. I have been an advocate for this move losing its homing property since the beginning? Why was it ever okay? Why do Steve players think it was okay for you to be able to do a free homing heat smash with Steve? I will never know. I will never understand why anyone thought this was okay. I'm not going to understand why Steve players think that this was okay and why it was unjustified for them to nerf this. I'm just disappointed in you guys. I really am. Please do better. Anyway, that's going to do it for the anti-version 2.02 guide for Tekken 8. Now, I have seen a bit of a mixed reception on this patch. So, as the person who's been doing these videos really since Season 2 came out, let me give my take on it. And also, a lot of you have been coming into the stream and asking what my take on this patch is. So, let me lay it down for you like this. I think the patch is good. I agree that more things do need to be done, but this is sort of the pace I was expecting the patches to go in. There's been a very clear vision and idea in the past few patches on what exactly the balance team is trying to focus on and fix. Those have mainly been plus on block situations that lead to a 50-50 mix-up where you don't have any counterplay to it. All of the previous patches have all been slowly addressing those problems, from the most egregious examples of it down to the least egregious examples. And now after this patch, really the only move that I think still falls into this category is Leroy sidestep 3+4. But besides that, this patch has firmly, with every character, solidified this game balance when it comes to stance mix-up plus on block moves into 50-50. Everything now has counterplay to it. Everything has proper options to be able to stop the mix-up, and if you have a read on what the opponent is going to do after they do these plus on block moves, then you do have an option for it. This wasn't the case at the beginning of Season 2, and even in Season 1, this wasn't the case for a lot of things, like June's up 2, for example. There were plenty of moves and situations when we go back to Season 1 where this wasn't the case. And this also, you can also see this sort of idea being realized in the change to heat engages on hit going from +17 to +9, going from, again, character like June, Ford 1+2 after heat engager being guaranteed, you having no counterplay to be able to deal with it. Elisa after heat engager being able to DS Ford 1+2 guaranteed with no counterplay to deal with it. Going from that to now you having counterplay against pretty much anything that any opponent does post heat engager. So overall, I'm looking at this patch not as one patch, but as a series of patches that started about a month ago. And I think that they have done a very good job in being able to do that. And I think that the game as it is now is a lot better than it was in Season 1. There's so many less situations where you're forced into a true 50-50. You have many more defensive options. And I think the game is in a much healthier state now than it was before. So I look at this patch not as not as an individual patch, but I think the last patch in a series of patches. So I repeated myself. I just don't think I made my point very clear the first time I said that, but that's how I feel about this. I think it's good. I think that the game is continuing to go in a good direction. And for anyone that disagrees with me, I told Michael Murray that to his face at Combo Breaker, so you can sue me. But anyway, I genuinely did. I genuinely talked to Michael Murray one-on-one and said that I think Season 2 is better than Season 1. So, you know, if you don't like it, well, you have me to blame now. So, anyway, I will give some criticisms on this patch and some of the balancing decision, though, now that we're at what I consider the end of this series of patches. I think that there are some missteps. There are still moves in this game where they are better on block than they are on hit. Feng's back 4, 3+4 in heat is an example. Now, it is better than it was before, but in many ways, you'd still rather be hit by this. Hwoarang's right flamingo 3-4, 4-3. I still don't know what the notation of the move is, but the new move he got in Season 2 is another example of a move that is just straight up better on block than it is on hit. There have also been strange changes, even in this patch, Jin's 2-1-4 being better on normal hit than counter hit, and in fact being so bad on counter hit that it changes the entire dynamic of 2-1 and makes it overall a significantly worse move. There are also plenty of examples of risk reward for some moves going into stance being very disproportional than others. Look at June for an example. If June does up 2 and goes into stance, she can't really cancel the stance. She has to commit to the stance mix-up. She doesn't get a lot of reward off the homing move, and sidestep right beats pretty much every option that she has. Whereas you look at a character like Azucena, and Azucena can still do something like while running 3-2. Your only real option to be able to beat that is Dick Jab, but she can choose not to go into stance, sidestep, and then launch a down jab. She still has really strong moves to be able to catch sidestep, like her stance 2, safe mid heat engager, and stuff like the back turn 1 being plus on block just gives her such a high reward and relatively low risk to a point where it does feel disproportional to other characters. In some ways, though, I think this is fine depending on the character, like with Azucena, like we just said. I think despite the risk reward being very skewed in Azucena, the attacker's favor, I think that's fine because her design and her archetype is supposed to be rush down. Caffeine rush. I thought of that when Season 2 came out, and I haven't gotten past the idea that that was their design thought on the character. But I think with her, in a similar way as Lars, it makes sense for her to have that, and I think that the options that she has in stance do require some thought and do require the right reads to be able to make the correct counterplay. But in other instances, like with Leroy sidestep 3+4, the risk reward is still very disproportional to what it feels like it should be given the character and given the playstyle. So there are some things that still need to be changed in that regard. There are some moves that are still really strong. Asuka's Aho Bouquet has become a meme at this point, but it's true that move is very good and might need a little bit of tuning. And I'm sure that we're going to see stuff like that get tuned as the season progresses. This patch said that this was going to be the last large-scale patch. Well, the next patch is going to be the last large-scale patch of the season of the season. I don't remember if they said of the season, but at the very least, for a little bit because of the Tekken World Tour. And this makes sense when you think of it in how I'm describing it as a series of patches where they're trying to tackle specific issues that they have been focusing on since the beginning, rather than it being a bunch of new ideas that they're trying to address each and every patch. Nowhere in the patch notes for this patch did they say that they're not going to continue balancing the game, they're not going to revert to Season 1, and in fact, they actually said the exact opposite of that in the first patch in this series of patches, where they said that they've changed the balancing philosophy. Essentially, they said this. They changed the balancing philosophy so that they're more willing to do these larger scale patches, and they're going to address smaller issues if the need arises and they feel like it is something that needs to be fixed, instead of waiting for the Tekken World Tour to be over like they did in Season 1. So a lot of people have been dooming over this patch because maybe they don't understand the changes and the focus of this patch, maybe because they feel like we're going to go back to Season 1 where the game's not getting fixed anymore, but they've been going continuously in the right direction. Everything that they've said so far, they have done. They haven't lied to us. They haven't misled us. They have said something, and everything that they've said since the start of Season 2, they have executed on, and they have done a fantastic job. They have done just about everything as well as they possibly could, given the amount of time that Season 2 has been out. It's been out for 2 months, and at this point, only 2 months, and the game has transformed substantially. Go and look back at how this game was at the beginning of Season 2 and look at it now. The changes to heat engagers, the health increase has made this game so much better, so much healthier. And Everyone at my locals feels pretty much the same way. And now that they've addressed they've finished addressing all of the issues when it comes to 50-50s and stance mix-ups and all of these plus on block moves, I think that the game is finally in an okay state. There's still a lot of problems. There's still a lot of things that need to be worked on. But despite that, I think that the game right now, the state that it's in, is fine. I'm very hopeful that by the time we get around the season 3, that this game is going to be in a very good state and people are going to be happy with it. Although, it's Tekken players, so they're never going to be happy. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope this helped you out, and have a great rest of your day. Also, big thank you to our channel members, Lisetto, Debauch Prism, and Alainair Tapion, for helping to allow me to continue to produce this content. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!